What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our SEC football channel.
Lane Kiffin back in the SEC. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, talking Ole Miss football. We got Jake Evans on the line from the Rebel Walk. We encourage you to hop on over there for the best in Ole Miss sports coverage. Jake, how you doing today, man?
Mark, I'm great now. We finally got a head coach. Couldn't be better.
Got a head coach, and nobody's really got to look up, okay, who is this guy? Where's he been? What's he been up to? Lane Kiffin's been on the radar for a long, long time in football, both the NFL and in college football. Man, this guy is not an old man by any stretch, and he has already had a bunch of substantial jobs. Tennessee, Oakland Raiders, USC, not even counting his coordinator positions, and obviously what he's done there at Florida Atlantic. So how is Rebel Nation responding to the news?
I tell you what, it's almost like we hired Nick Saban. I mean, it really is. The place, the whole city, I mean, you know, all of Ole Miss social media, everything is just going absolutely crazy. I mean, since it became rumored that he was going to be the new head coach about a week ago, Twitter's just been blowing up. Everybody showing their support, telling everybody to hop on the Lane train. I mean, the whole 9 yards. It's been fantastic. So, you know, he's got all the people behind him now. That was the biggest thing that Keith Carter, the athletic director, talked about, was needing to get, you know, Rebel Nation back behind the football program, and he's done it, and he's been the head coach for about 24 hours now. So he hit the ground running. Yeah,
and he's been introduced to Rebel Nation. He's hit the podium to talk to the media. Anything in particular out of his mouth, out of the usual customary, hey, it's great to be here, glad to be here, and we're going to build a winner, outside of those statements that you took away from what Lane Kiffin had to say?
Yeah, well, he actually, you know, and this is just pure Lane Kiffin, him just being, you know, a funny guy, not really one to give you a bunch of coach speak per se. You know, he had his lines where he talked about, we're going to be here, we're going to build a winning program, you know, try and get to the top and stay there. He said all those things, but then, you know, at one point somebody asked him, because last night when he landed in Oxford, about probably 9 o'clock, there was a couple hundred, maybe 1,000 people waiting for him on the tarmac when he got off. And they asked him about that. They said, you know, how was all that on the tarmac and everything? And he said, well, it was a lot better than my last experience on the tarmac when I guess that was when he got canned by either Alabama or USC. I can't remember.
USC. Yeah.
So, you know, he's cutting up. He's having a good time with everybody. He's really happy to be here. And, you know, his family's fired up too. So it's a good fit for now.
Yeah, and he's definitely a guy that was given a lot of opportunities early in life because of his dad being a longtime defensive coordinator in the NFL. But certainly he showed himself to at least start a reclamation project at Tennessee. He had one really good season at USC. The Oakland Raiders, you know, he obviously knows what he's doing to a certain extent, and he's known for offensive football and being able to put the right people in the right place. And he is somebody that's gone to FAU, and they instantly became the best recruited team in Conference USA. He was able to bring in the recruits like nobody else had done there, or really at the Conference USA level. So, you know, you definitely get that name recognition, and there's going to be a lot of kids that I would think are going to give Ole Miss a look that maybe weren't going to give Ole Miss a look.
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, so I think last week when I was on with you, we talked about how Ole Miss lost 7 recruits pretty much in 24 hours after firing Matt Luke. 7 of the guys who were committed had been committed for a while. And you know, we were just kind of trying to wait to get to December 18th so that we could get the pen on the paper. But after losing some of those guys, you know, it became really, really important to get the right hire and a good, exciting one that could try and bring some of those guys back and potentially grab a few new guys. So, you know, it's really good right now. There's actually 2 Ole Miss players who had entered the transfer portal who have withdrawn their names from the transfer portal already just within the last 24 hours. So he's already making an impact. You know, people want to play for him, and the excitement is back around Ole Miss football, which, you know, that's you can't go wrong with that. It's absolutely what this program needs.
Got Jake Evans on the line for the Rebel Walk, talking Ole Miss football with Lane Kiffin in the fold, replacing Matt Luke. And, of course, Lane Kiffin, head coach at Tennessee, offensive coordinator at Alabama, comes back to the SEC. So just in regards to, again, he's known for offensive football. He was actually at the forefront of the Alabama transition from ground and pound running team, play action, let's throw it 15 or 20 times too. He was really the first one, even before Tua, that opened it up with Blake Sims and was getting Calvin Ridley and Amari Cooper and those guys downfield and stretching the defense and spacing out the defense and really bringing some concepts to Alabama football that they had not shown before. And, again, he's just a guy that, wants to win, has a desire to win, has a track record for at least starting the turnaround at a lot of places. So he's got something going for him that people gravitate to, and he's got a tremendous level of confidence and kind of exudes that. And there's no question about that portion of it.
Yeah, like you said, the name recognition is half of it. I mean, realistically, when this search started, I kind of had to look up Lane Kiffin and see how he's done the last few years, because the last I really remember hearing about him was when he was at Tennessee 10 years ago, because I'm from Nashville. So, he brings a lot of just raw excitement. And like you said, he is a really, really strong play caller. He's been on the cutting edge of a lot of really good offenses in the country. And that's one of the things that Ole Miss's athletic director, Keith Carter, talked about. He said when he announced him, he kept referring to him being on the cutting edge of a lot of, new types of play calling and some high flying, high producing offenses. He's got a good track record. So he stumbled a few times in the media light early in his career, but he's rebounded and he's done a really, really solid job as a head coach over the last few years.
Yeah, so that's a good point in regards to Lane Kiffin. That's another thing that comes to mind for most people are the missteps off field. None of them have been that egregious, but just not necessarily knowing how to handle that level of authority. But he's been separated from that for a long time. I think he's probably grown up, learned from his mistakes. And again, he went to FAU, ran the program for 3 years. We heard nothing but positive things in regards to the results on the field. He's taken over a program down there that was completely in the abyss in regards to competing, even in that conference, winning 2 and 3 games a year. He steps in, they win a conference championship. He had a bit of a down year in that second year, kind of turning over the roster, but then he wins the conference again this year. So 2 out of 3 conference championships. Again, he's been the top recruiter in that conference for the 3 years that he's been there. So he's certainly now starting the ascension again, getting back into big-time Power 5 football to see if he can crack the code there in the SEC Western Division. That should be interesting to see him going up against the big boys.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the SEC West now, you couldn't draw it up any better as far as the coaches that you got there. You've got Nick Saban, Jimbo Fisher, Lane Kiffin, Gus Malzahn, Ed Orgeron. It's an all-star cast of big personalities and coaches with good track records around the country. And, you talked a minute ago about how he's matured as a coach and as a person. He had his missteps, back however many years ago that was. But that was one of the things he talked about today and yesterday. He said that, I've matured as a person, as a man, but also as a football coach. He said, I feel that I'm only getting better in both of those regards. And, he feels that this is going to be a really good place for him where he can kind of just continue that personal journey, I suppose.
Jake, we're just a little over a week from National Signing Day. Hopefully we can have you back, run down the Rebels class and maybe the impact that Lane Kiffin has had on the 2020 players coming into the fold.
Yeah, we like I said, he's got to hit the ground running here. He's got to, over the next few days, his first challenge is going to be to get his staff put together and figure out who he's going to retain from Ole Miss's current staff. But then after that, he's got to hit the ground running and get through the recruiting trail, because we're 9 days away now. And, like I said, Ole Miss lost some of their better players that had been previously committed. So he's got to go try and get some of those new guys, go try and find some of these other guys that are still uncommitted and just really shore up this class, because in the SEC, you might have a top 25 class in the country, but it might be 10th best in the SEC. So you got to recruit hard if you want to win in the SEC. That's just the way it is.
Again, you see the site right there, the Rebel Walk. Jake Evans joining us to talk Ole Miss football. Jake, we appreciate you stopping by, man.
Mark, thank you much for having me.